Hey, Jay, so good to have you on the podcast today. Thanks for joining.
Thanks so much, Ben, for having me.
Yeah, no worries. And hey, before we get stuck into the good stuff, what do you get up to outside of work?
Outside of work, I am an avid beach goer. I
Hmm.
also moonlight as a barista.
Oh,
So I will caffeinate you in the morning. Um, and I also CV write and career coach on the side. So help candidates find their purpose and sort of somewhere they really enjoy working.
yeah, fantastic. There you go. And what's your favorite beach?
Burley.
Oh, yeah, awesome. There's such a good view. Yeah, especially at the Burley Pavilion, having a cheeky beer.
I love everything about Burley. I did the
Mm,
ocean swim a few years back, so
yep.
that's on the bucket list to do again.
Yeah, beautiful. Ah, very good beach. All righty. Well, hey, would you be able to sort of share a bit more background on your journey in the accounting industry?
Sure. So I started my journey at the accounting industry at PwC in the UK firm.
Mm.
I did your classic Aussie thing and got my 2-year visa to London, and off I went. I started in the experienced hire team doing projects, so looking after their visa pathway, supporting the talent teams, and then eventually worked my way across to the early talent teams.
Hmm.
I my visa ended, so I resigned and went backpacking. And within 2 weeks of being home, I had the Australian firm reach out to me to join their Brisbane early careers team.
Mm.
So I spent 3 years in Brisbane looking after all their early talent programs through from graduate vacationer, early ID programs, upskilling workshops, development, workforce planning, and loved it.
Yeah.
Um, After that, I moved to a bank. So I left the accounting industry for a little while. And I wrote and delivered their early talent strategy. So brought in their first two cohorts of interns into what
Wow.
is now the sixth largest bank in Australia.
Which
I
one's that?
realized,
If you're happy to share.
yeah, so that was BOQ Group. So
Ah,
that
wow.
was Bank of Queensland, Virgin Money Australia. And while I
Mm.
was there, they acquired Me Bank. So um, got a really interesting perspective moving from a partnership to an AXS listed company,
Yes.
multi-brand as well, which was an added challenge. But after about
Mm.
18 months, I realized that banking wasn't my passion. I missed accounting.
Aw.
Um, and so was looking for something that aligned a little bit more to my values and purpose. And so have been at Chartered Accountants ANZ now for about 6 months.
Mm.
Um, and the reason I came back to the accounting industry was, and someone said this to me at the bank, which really resonated to me, was accounting's a people industry.
Mm.
You work with people. It's in the best interest of a firm to develop and upskill their people because that's their product.
Yep.
So accounting really looks after their staff. They invest in them. It's in their best interest to do so. Whereas I found banking, because your product is money, it didn't
Mm.
have that same cultural element when I was in PNC.
Yeah, wow. So it was a bit of stale. Um,
Traditional would
yeah,
probably
okay.
be the word I would use. Um,
Corporate.
Corporate as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and then I came to Chartered Accountants as the Careers Engagement Manager for Queensland.
Mm.
So we look at the entire accounting industry. We engage with high schools, university students, firms like yourself, academics,
Mm.
to ensure that we have healthy numbers of accounting students coming through into the industry.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for that overview, and that's a really good transition into my next question, which is sort of what are some of the high level trends you're seeing in the accounting industry from a like a people or graduate perspective?
It's tight market at all levels right now. We're seeing accountants are in extremely high demand, and I think particularly the last few years in the pandemic really
Mm.
heightened that need of accounting and that expertise. Particularly at an early careers level, we are seeing a reduction in students choosing to do accounting at university. We're
Hmm.
even seeing that reduction at high school. Um,
Do you think what do you think is sort of driving that?
I think it's a few things. I think the ATAR, so our high school curriculum is not helping us. That changed over about 2 years ago. And so accounting was lumped into general business.
Okay.
There was a really strong TAFE and trade push. There was a really strong STEM push as well. And so accounting just isn't given the same platform that it used to be. On top of that, accounting is a very homework heavy subject. So if you're a 16, 17-year-old picking a subject, homework's probably not high on your priority list. And then as well, I've sort of said to people, there's no cultural reference for accounting. So
Yeah.
there's no Suits that showcases law. There's
Ah.
no Grey's Anatomy that showcases, medicine. So there's no like direct correlation or understanding for young people to have this insight into what it is to be a modern accountant.
Wow, that's a really good perspective. And so actually just for the you mentioned a couple of acronyms there. And so did the ATAR replace the OP system? Is that thing?
Correct. In
Yeah.
Queensland, we went through the OP system,
Yep.
and then when they made a national curriculum, it was
Ah,
called the ATAR.
yep. Okay. And you mentioned STEM as well. I've heard that word, but what does that one mean?
STEM is science, technology, engineering, maths.
Okay.
And you may also hear sometimes STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, maths.
Okay. There you go. Geez. So school was a while ago for me. Okay. So we're getting less people doing it in school, which means less in unis. We've had the I guess the immigration pause for a couple of years, thanks to the good old virus. So I guess what from an accounting firm's perspective should we be doing about this sort of lack of available people to join our firm, whether it's now or over the next few years where we see it? Well, I'm guessing will even dwindle even further.
I think the irony is there's healthy numbers of commerce students coming through university.
Okay.
The students are still picking business, but they're leaning towards finance and economics as majors. I
And
think
and what does that typically end people up doing day to day? Like, are they bankers or?
trading, banking, investment banking, consulting is a really popular one. Ironically, though, I also think that a lot of the careers these students are striving for, they just don't understand, fall under the umbrella of accounting.
Yep.
So I really think that there is this misrepresentation, or that accounting needs a really good PR person to showcase the breadth of the industry, the interesting work, the clients you're supporting. So many students over the years have said to me, I want to solve problems and help people. And they really don't understand that modern accountants do that.
Yep.
They go, they speak to their clients, they listen to their hopes and dreams, they show them the roadmap of getting there, the things that they can improve on, the risks that they've got in their business. And I feel like this is so much what people want to do in their career. They also don't understand that linear jump to it. I will also mention salary. It's such a big one with the younger generation at the moment.
Okay.
Entry-level salaries for the accounting industry are quite low in comparison to your banking, trading, consulting, and those industries. So in a lot of the surveys from the Australian Association of Graduate Employers, we're seeing that salary is up there in the top 1 or 2 of our Gen Zs looking for their first job.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. There you go. So for a PR person, we need someone to make accounting great again, do we?
I don't know if I want to use the phrase great again. Maybe we can make accounting sexy.
Okay. There you go. All righty. And so I guess, yeah, kind of being aware of the different sort of things going on at like a firm level, what can we do to sort of stand out or maybe get in front of these graduates or undergraduate people?
It's hard. It's not a one silver bullet that's really going to help you get in front of students. I think this applies to a lot of industries, but you can't be what you can't see.
Okay.
If students aren't aware of these careers, if we're not telling stories and mentoring and showing them that these careers exist, it's really hard for them to even imagine a career in that.
Yep.
So many students believe that accounting is tax returns and bookkeeping.
It's a bit
When
of that.
it's a bit of that, but that's only part of such a wonderful, broad, supportive industry. I also think as well that how can we support them coming into the industry?
And sort of like actually find them.
Find them. That's a really good question as well, because post-pandemic student engagement is incredibly low. So this is another challenge we're seeing, and having spoken to a number of high school teachers and university lecturers and tutors, they're saying that students, they need a little bit more time to normalize, have that normal quintessential student experience before we layer on top. So there's very little structure in a university day at the moment. Lectures are online, so they can choose to watch them whenever they want. Shoots are online, so they can choose to watch them whenever they want.
Wow.
And so they don't have this structure anymore. So it's quite shocking for them when they enter the workforce that they have to be in an office on a certain day, or they have to work from home on a certain day, or they have to attend this meeting at a certain time. So I think there is a lot of also damage that was done from the pandemic in terms of support, young people and some of the skills they may have learnt just from the structure that in-person university or part-time jobs would have provided.
Yeah, wow.
That didn't really answer your question in a linear way.
No.
I think as well, like if you look at any type of grad programs and if you look at sort of more the human-centered design, are we going out and talking to young people or modern young accountants and asking them what they want? Is your culture fit for purpose? Is it delivering on the things that young people are looking for in their career, and is it supporting them in a way that's meaningful for them?
Yeah, okay. And I was going to ask you maybe some questions around that sort of Gen Z, which we spoke about before we hit the record button. But what are those things that like a young person's an undergrad or a recent graduate are looking for in their work?
They want value. So they want to add value. They want purpose. They want it to align with their values, I should say. They want flexibility as well, but not necessarily full flexibility. They want to have development opportunities. They want to work on meaningful work. And I think we've seen over the years that cohorts go from knowing they just have to stick it out and try to there's a lot more transient. So if they don't like it, they're moving on quickly. And I think that's also because there's been such a boom in entry-level roles in the last 2 years that they have options, and they have options that they never had before. So previous to the pandemic, your large big four, big mid-tiers, they all used to recruit at the same time once a year.
Yep.
And so now those organizations have tended to move towards rolling recruitment. So they're recruiting all year. And so they have this opportunity to shop, to job shop, to say yes to one, sign that contract, still interview, gather all these offers, and then just pick the one at the end that suits them most at that time. And so I can see how the flow on then down the food chain through to the smaller boutiques, the independent practices, is really difficult when they're also looking to fill their entry-level roles. The other dynamic there is the big four have taken 100 to 150 to 200% of their regular grad headcount.
Of course they have.
So they are just eating up talent in the market at the moment.
Wow. Okay. And are they experiencing, maybe the reason behind that is the retention rate is also maybe halving?
I would hazard a guess that their retention is hurting them a little bit too.
Okay. Yep. So they're going big in recruitment because they're going out the back end as well. Okay. Yeah. And so I guess do you sort of see that sort of switching its supply demand kind of balance a little bit anytime soon, or do you still see that this is going to be we need to bunker down and expect this sort of reality for a few years at least?
I think it's a bit of both. If all the reports say we're going into recession, then job security becomes higher up on the list for people. It means the market will get tighter in terms of businesses will be hiring less people, there's less churn, so there will be that natural drop off in headcount.
Yep.
I also think as well, as international borders open, more of that skilled migrant labor will come in, because that's a big factor as well. Is,
Yes.
you know, when we closed our international borders, we turned off that tap of international talent.
And that's about like, I think I recall seeing something. It's about 30 or 40% of our like recruitment, isn't it? Is skilled
Huge.
migrants.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Particularly as well, because so many of your Asian countries are still doing accounting in quite large numbers.
because
So
it's
particularly,
sexy over there still. There you go.
exactly.
Okay. Yeah, all righty. And so I started in a big four firm, and I saw their vacation program, their graduate program. But would you be able to sort of describe the types of basically like what is a graduate or undergraduate program, and how does a small to medium firm implement something like that?
So they have very robust hiring processes.
Mm-hmm.
They would get a huge volume of applications within a very short period of time. And so they ran a volume process, which a typical process looks like application, psychometric testing, video interview, and then some type of assessment center interview, and then straight into offer. They typically hire a year in advance as well. So then they also have keep warm strategies. So those students are back at university knowing that they have a grad offer or a vacation offer over summer.
Okay, so you're in, let's say, your last year of uni, but you've already got the job once you finish uni.
Yep.
Wow, that's cool.
Yep. So then they join. It really depends on the organization. A lot of Big Four don't run rotational programs. So if you are hired into an audit grad role, you join audit, you fall into that stream. They offer specialized development programs. So you would go through in audit at PwC, you would do 2 weeks of Assurance One training. Tax would do Tax Academy, and so forth and so on. So they would immediately give you and arm you with skills that you needed to do your job.
Okay.
Cohort is also another really important point in these grad programs, because you're bringing in a group of 30 to 60, depending on your organization and city, of young, like-minded people who are all going through the same learning journey. They would provide social opportunities, networking, mentoring. So it was this really structured program that they would go through for at least their first year.
Yeah.
I think we spoke a little bit before around how this is not a bad thing in terms of like early careers is helping everyone. We need to support young people coming into the workforce in any capacity, because the flow on of them on into the market are highly skilled, trained young people, when some of these smaller practices may not have that capacity to offer them those robust development opportunities that they need in their first or second year. And just the volume that they're taking as well, they have that structure in place.
Yeah, interesting. And I was thinking like the resources and the people behind pulling a program like that off must be pretty intense. But I guess the upside must be like a much better graduate experience or undergrad experience overall. One thing I sort of pulled out is they don't just put the people straight into on-the-job training. Is that correct? You do your induction sort of week or two. Is that right?
It depends on the organization, but typically, yeah, they'll do day one is an orientation, get to know each other, and then they'll go into some type of training.
Like your tax academy.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a majority of on-the-job learning.
Yep.
But don't forget, in these firms, their programs have been around for 30, 40 years. So they have partners who came through their vacation program. So it's when you have an entire organization on board, there is a lot more structure and understanding of those people coming through. So when you have senior associates who were vacationers 3-4 years ago training these people, they very much have that understanding of the deficiencies they have, the gaps they have, what they need and what they're looking for on their first day. So when I was at PwC about 4 years ago, the average age of the firm was 27.
Wow. Okay. Like the whole firm.
The whole national Australian firm. So very young organizations.
Some of the partners are 50s and maybe older.
I know, but some
So,
of the partners we worked with were in late 20s.
wow. There you go. Interesting. Yeah, it's changed a bit back in mine, eh?
Are you old enough to
uh,
say that now, Ben?
oh, I feel like it. Yeah, for a number of reasons, but anyway, the younger team remind me. It's like they teach me words like lingo, and I'm like, oh, really?
Because as we said, we're elder millennials now.
Yeah, yep, definitely. It's yeah, maybe a 10 year gap between some of the team and me.
And I think
Um,
to that point as well, like you've got your boomer generation who dominated the workforce for a long time,
mm,
and they didn't pay a huge amount of attention to Gen Y. They just kind
yes.
of brought them in. They were like me. They work like me. They think like me. And so when Gen when millennials entered the workforce, and again, they were a very different generation to boomers.
Mm.
They are the most talked about generation currently. So there was so much revolt that all of a sudden work culture shifted a lot to support millennials. And then we've got our next generation, but think about what's come in that time. You've had the internet, you've had social
Mm.
media, you've had all these things. And so this is our first true digital generation that have never known life without the iPhone, without Instagram,
Yeah.
without, I still remember the dial up internet tone and that you could pick up
Mm.
the phone and kick your sibling off if they were annoying you.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Um, so this generation are just they
Mm.
are equipped differently, they think differently, they go for their information in places. And I was reading an article a few weeks ago that was saying that Google is losing market share of Gen Z to TikTok because
Wow.
millennials go, what should I know, and Google it. gen z go sorry
uh,
Gen Z go, what should I know, and scroll on TikTok till
to
they
find
find
it.
it.
Oh no. I'm actually quite concerned about that. People are getting their how to do stuff from that, but I guess yeah, how sturdy is Google?
And I think that comes back to your point
Mm.
around how do firms find this talent if they're looking at the
Mm.
younger generation is, are you going where they're looking?
Yeah. Yep.
Are
Interesting.
you advertising in the way you have always done? And is it not working? But is it time to think of strategies in a different way?
Yep.
Because attention span has also changed in the last 20
Mm.
years. Our parents used to listen to albums. We struggled to get through a whole song.
Yep.
And now the younger generation are looking at 30 seconds, that instant
Mm.
bite-sized content.
Interesting. I've even noticed really obviously how marketing trends have changed in the last 2 years, like since the start of the like 2020 to now. It's yeah, it's gone from, people might be happy to sit there watching a minute or two or three, but now it's sort of 60 seconds is your max.
I was going to say 30
But,
seconds.
yeah, yep, it's crazy. So yeah, wow, okay. And um, so I guess the graduate recruitment side of things, that's more a number of things that make a well system driven or process driven recruitment for a firm.
Yeah.
So they got those different ingredients you mentioned earlier. And yeah, I guess so once a junior person joins the firm, they can be junior, intermediate, whatever, senior. But how do we best support them? I think you touched on a few things there already, like the training. But like, what are they looking for? What's going to keep them there long term?
Again, no silver bullet. I think one area we've really lacked in the last few years is upskilling their leader.
Okay.
So that their direct line manager is the person they spend the most time with, or their immediate team. And so if those people aren't understanding how to upskill them, how they're thinking, how they're feeling, how they operate, how they communicate even, that is how most of their experience at an organization. So I think
Yep.
organizations need to also think about, do they not only provide training for their new starter, but do they also provide training for the leader they report to?
And I think that's a mindset shift that really starts at the firm owner who's running the thing, if the owner's not upskilling themselves, then they probably don't have that for the leaders or the managers, and therefore, yeah, if they're not progressing, then the people under them again are probably not going to hang around for too long if they hit ceilings. So
I agree. And I think as well, like work culture has shifted
yes,
significantly in the last 2 years. So I think that all plays into it as well, where prior to the pandemic, we would go out for a drink with friends and offload about work in a safe space. We would have community around us where we could go and chat and bounce ideas around. And all of a
mm,
sudden, that was taken away from everyone. They were at home. We saw more people working longer hours. We
mm,
saw work gossip increase because work
mm,
became your friend, your therapist, your social life, and so work was never designed to be this one place where you go for everything. Um, and so I think as well, that's why we've also seen a high turnover of staff at all layers, because when you're hoping for your organization to be everything, that's a very big ask. And so
yeah,
people are getting tired or burnt out or disenfranchised. And then we're in a hot talent market. So there is the opportunity to leave.
yep. And there's people waiting at any moment, or you can leave, get paid 5, 10, 15 grand more. It's
Yeah.
you can't judge people for that.
No. And I think
uh,
this is just unprecedented. We see this
mm,
cycle happen every few years. Like, when I say few years, sort of
mm.
15, 20, 30 years, but it does happen.
Yep. Okay. And we talked about culture a bit. I'm going to kind of ask a weird question, but what would you call culture?
That is a very hard, it is a bit of a buzzword.
Yeah.
Um, Culture is at an organization, I think the tone that leadership set, the
Mm,
values that they present to their employees, the work that they take on, the type of employee, it is multifaceted. It is always shifting and moving. It is like a
mm,
live thing because every things can influence it, and there's a lot of internal and external influences to culture. Um, but I think at its core, you've got your top down leadership, and that really does set the tone, especially for small organizations, on what their leader is focusing on.
mm,
So, diversity and inclusion and well-being are such big topics in the last few
mm.
years. And so, if your leader isn't focused on that, that organization obviously isn't going to sort of walk the walk on those things. As well as flexible working is a
Yep.
really big one that employees are asking for at the moment. Meaningful work, sustainability, even is a huge thing that employees are asking for, whether that's working on those projects or being a more sustainable organization in how you operate. So,
Mm.
as I said, I think it's this living, moving thing that adapts.
Yeah. I mean, interesting. I struggle to define it, but I like what you said about the tone, or it's almost like a feeling when you go and when you approach work that it's almost a living thing on itself, isn't it?
Hmm.
It's pretty crazy, but okay. And in terms of like opportunities over the next few years, like we've talked about some scary stuff of low people entering the market. But what about like some opportunities? Do you have any? Are you seeing those with the firms that you talk to or the candidates, grads? Like where's the accounting industry? Like the cool stuff that's going to happen over the next few years?
Definitely. So we've done a lot of work at CA with our members.
Yes.
So flexibility and quality leadership are extremely important to our future members, and we're seeing more and more firms offer those things to their employees. We've also seen a huge uptake in sustainability, ESG,
Mm-hmm.
and data and analytics as different organizations. So CA's also refreshed their program, which launched in 2021, to offer those as electives for their members.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen a huge uptake in those subjects. So I'm really not surprised to hear that sustainability, data analytics, data is king. as we move forward in the industry. So I think we're at a really interesting time where we have so much to offer as accountants, and we really can help organizations to hit their bottom line and targets in these areas as well.
Yeah, great. And so maybe sort of that's a good point. So with the change in the CA program, would you be able to walk us through what that looks like now? Because when I went through it, I think there was 4 main subjects, and then the ethics was the one at the end.
Ethics and business is the very first subject you do that's only 2 weeks long. So that's your gate, opens it all up. The program now is 8 subjects over, and it's sort of choose your own adventure. So we offer 4 terms now, and so you have the flexibility to decide which terms you study, and which so if you want to take a break over busy season, you're more than welcome to not study that term, which I totally appreciate. Busy season can be all consuming, and then throughout your course you can choose electives to support that. So if you're really passionate about sustainability, you can do the sustainability module. If you're really passionate about financial reporting and data analytics, there's also another elective you can do there. So we see a lot of our young provisional members completing their CA within that sort of 3 to 4 year mark, but the new program allows you to take up to 8 years to complete your CA.
Yep. Okay. There you go. And I've seen some of the people at our at Inspire are actually doing 2 subjects in a term. Is that something that makes sense at the moment, or is that still a big undertaking they're doing?
It's a big undertaking. You've got some overachievers there, especially if they're working full time. We generally recommend 1 subject a term. Ethics and business can be done concurrently with another subject because it is only 2 weeks long. So it is more achievable, but by all means, if you have the capacity to do 2 subjects in a term, you're more than welcome to.
Yep. Yeah, fantastic. There you go. So that's helpful to get a better understanding for the members who haven't seen the new program. But okay. And then I guess this year I've reached out to CA in Brisbane a number of times, and I've been really pleased with the support and help I've felt. I think there's a lot of public practice members who may not know about certain things that are available to them, or resources or people to be able to talk to. But do you have some information for the listeners on what they should do to reach out if they're chasing help, and what CA could provide assistance with as well?
I think always please reach out. We are more than happy to support our members and the industry as a whole. Depending what industry you're in, we hold public practice panels, we hold tax updates, budget updates. There's always mentoring sessions. We have our Young Chartered Accountants committee as well. So they run networking events, social events, opportunities to upskill and connect with your peers as well. So there are so many things, and I know right now, while I'm filming this, I am missing many opportunities that are not coming to me in this moment. So I would say to anyone listening, please reach out, shoot me a LinkedIn message our member services team. They'll pass it on as well. So please feel free to get in touch. We're always more than happy to support our members in whatever we have going on. And I think as well, like Ben, you reached out with your idea about an event, and we were more than happy to promote and come along and support. So if you have this brilliant idea and want to connect accountants in the industry, we are also on board to support your ideas too.
Yep, fantastic. And I definitely don't want to sort of downplay, but I've felt a huge amount of support for my own firm, but that initiative with the couple of other firms in Brisbane that we did together. So yeah, thank you and the other team that helped with that.
You're welcome. I'm pleased you've felt supported.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, thanks so much, Jay. It's always good having a chat with you and listening to your experience and especially calling on that stuff earlier in your career. I think that's definitely very helpful for firm owners and what we're struggling with now. But thanks again. And is the best place, I think you mentioned that your LinkedIn is probably the best place that people can reach out to you if they want to have a chat.
Yep. Shoot me a LinkedIn message, connect. I'm always happy to catch up for a coffee.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. Thanks again, Jay. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Ben.
Cheers.